Lila was a young mage who had always dreamed of becoming a hero. She had trained hard to master the art of elemental magic, and she was eager to prove herself in the world. She had heard stories of the Dark Crystal, a mysterious and powerful artifact that was said to be the source of all evil and corruption in the land. It was hidden somewhere in the deepest part of the dark forest, guarded by fearsome creatures and dark mages. Lila's mentor, Master Zane, had told her that she was the chosen one, the only one who could destroy the Dark Crystal and save the world from its dark influence. He had given her a special pendant that contained a fragment of pure light, and told her to use it as a weapon against the Dark Crystal. He had also warned her that it would not be easy, and that she would face many dangers and temptations along the way. Lila packed her bags and set off for the dark forest, determined to fulfill her destiny. She followed a map that Master Zane had given her, and soon reached the edge of the forest. She saw a dark path that led into the depths of the woods, and felt a chill run down her spine. She took a deep breath and entered the forest. She walked for hours, avoiding any signs of life or civilization. She only saw twisted trees, thorny bushes, and eerie shadows. She heard strange noises in the distance, like howls, growls, and screams. She felt like she was being watched by unseen eyes. She finally reached a clearing where she saw a large stone archway covered with vines and runes. It looked like an entrance to an ancient temple or fortress. Lila felt drawn to it, as if it was calling to her. She approached it cautiously, wondering what secrets it hid. She touched one of the runes with her hand, feeling a surge of energy run through her body. The rune glowed brightly for a moment, then faded away. Lila gasped as she realized what she had done. She had activated one of the traps that protected the Dark Crystal. She heard a loud rumble behind her, followed by a loud roar. She turned around and saw a huge dragon emerge from behind some trees. It had scales as black as night, eyes as red as blood, and teeth as sharp as blades. It breathed fire at Lila, who barely dodged it. Lila ran towards the archway, hoping to find shelter inside. She reached it just as another dragon flew over her head, blocking out the sun. It dropped something on top of Lila's head, a large crystal that sparkled with dark light. Lila felt a sharp pain in her head as she touched the crystal with her hand. It burned like fire, making her scream in agony. The crystal glowed brighter than ever before, filling Lila's mind with images and voices. She saw visions of evil deeds, wars, plagues, famines, torture chambers, slave markets, executions, sacrifices, rituals, prophecies, lies, hatred, fear, despair. She heard voices in her head, whispers, taunts, threats, commands, promises, temptations, lies, secrets, mysteries, power, glory, domination. She felt emotions overwhelm her: anger, sadness, guilt, shame, regret, doubt, confusion. She realized that she was being corrupted by the Dark Crystal. It was feeding on her negative emotions and turning them into its own. She tried to resist it. She tried to remember who she was: Lila, a mage, an hero, an ally, an enemy, an ally, an enemy, an ally. But it was too late. She had lost herself to the Dark Crystal. The dragon laughed triumphantly as it lifted Lila up with its claws. "Welcome to your new home," it said in a deep voice that echoed in Lila's mind. "Welcome to your new master. Welcome to your new life." The dragon flew away with Lila in its claws, leaving behind a trail of smoke and fire. It took Lila to its lair deep inside the dark forest, where it kept its collection of other human captives, who were tortured, starved, and killed for its amusement. The dragon showed Lila its treasures: a crown made from human skulls, a throne made from human bones, a mirror made from human eyes, a book made from human blood, a sword made from human flesh, a ring made from human hearts, a necklace made from human souls. The dragon told Lila its plans. It wanted to use Lila's pendant, which contained pure light, to break through its own defenses, and reach its true goal, to find and destroy the source of all light in existence, the sun. The dragon said that once it had destroyed the sun, it would become the supreme being of darkness, and Lila would be its loyal servant, helping it in its quest to plunge the world into eternal night. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Lila's transformation continued. Her memories of her past life faded into obscurity, replaced by a single-minded devotion to the dragon and the dark crystal. She reveled in the power and glory that came with her newfound allegiance. She no longer recognized the face that stared back at her in the mirror, for her appearance had changed. Her once bright eyes were now a chilling shade of crimson, mirroring the dragon's own. Her skin had paled to an ashen hue, and dark tendrils of magic coursed through her veins. Lila assisted the dragon in capturing other heroes who ventured into the dark forest, luring them into traps and ensnaring them with dark spells. She watched as they too succumbed to the corrupting influence of the dark crystal, their hopes and dreams twisted into instruments of destruction. Despite the darkness that had consumed her, there were fleeting moments when Lila's old self fought to resurface. In those moments, she felt a profound sense of loss and regret. But their dark crystal's grip was unrelenting. It whispered promises of limitless power and an eternity of servitude in her ear, drowning out any remnants of her former self. As the dragon's plan to destroy the sun grew closer to fruition, Lila's loyalty to the dark crystal deepened. She was no longer the hero she had once aspired to be, she had become an agent of darkness, a willing instrument of destruction. And with each passing day, the world moved one step closer to the brink of eternal night, all thanks to Lila's unwitting role in fulfilling the dragon's malevolent ambitions. Years passed, and the world remained shrouded in darkness as the dragon's plan to destroy the sun drew closer to completion. Lila had become an integral part of the dragon's malevolent operation, and her own sense of self had all but vanished. She was but a loyal servant of the dark crystal, a pawn in a grand scheme that threatened to snuff out the last remnants of light. However, fate had a way of weaving unexpected threads into the tapestry of destiny. Unbeknownst to Lila, a glimmer of hope had survived in the darkest corners of the world. In a hidden village, untouched by the dragon's influence, a child had been born, a child with a connection to Lila that was both undeniable and profound. This child, a girl named Elara, was the daughter of Lila, the once aspiring hero now lost to darkness. She grew up hearing tales of her mother's heroic past, stories of a time when Lila had been a symbol of hope and courage. As Elara came of age, the village elders recognized a unique potential within her, a latent magical ability that mirrored her mother's long-lost powers. Elara's journey began with the discovery of her mother's old journal, hidden away in a dusty attic. The journal chronicled Lila's training, her dreams of becoming a hero, and the fateful quest that had led her into the clutches of the dark crystal. It also contained a haunting message written in Lila's hand, a message of regret, and a plea for forgiveness. Determined to understand her mother's past and to free her from the darkness that bound her, Elara embarked on a perilous quest of her own. Armed with her mother's pendant, which had been left behind in the village, Elara ventured into the dreaded dark forest. She hoped to find clues about the dark crystal, the dragon, and a way to save her mother's soul. As she delved deeper into the heart of the forest, facing treacherous obstacles and malevolent creatures, Elara's powers began to awaken. She discovered that she possessed the same elemental magic that had once defined her mother. With each challenge she overcame, her abilities grew stronger, and she felt a deep connection to the pendant that hung around her neck. In the shadow of her mother's legacy, Elara sought to become the hero that Lila had once aspired to be. The fate of the world hung in the balance, and as she continued her quest to confront the dragon and the dark crystal, she carried with her not only her mother's pendant but also the hope of restoring the light that had been stolen from their world. The tale of Lila, the fallen hero, was now intertwined with the destiny of her daughter, Elara, the new protagonist in the epic struggle against the forces of darkness. Elara's journey through the dark forest was fraught with peril and uncertainty. With every step she took, she felt the weight of her mother's legacy pressing down upon her. The village elders had expressed their concerns, fearing that Elara might meet the same tragic fate as her mother, Lila. "Stay, Elara," they pleaded, their voices filled with worry. "Your mother ventured into that darkness and never returned. We cannot bear the thought of losing you as well." But Elara's determination burned brighter than any fear. She knew that her mother's sacrifice had not been in vain. It had led her to this moment, armed with a pendant and the elemental magic that could be her greatest weapon against the darkness that consumed Lila. With each challenge she faced in the dark forest, the villagers' words echoed in her mind, urging her to turn back. Yet, the encounters with the twisted creatures and malevolent spirits only fueled her resolve. She couldn't abandon her mother, not when there was a glimmer of hope that she could save her. One evening, as she rested by a campfire deep in the heart of their forest, Elara contemplated her journey. She knew that her path was fraught with danger, and the temptation of the dark crystal's power was ever present. Her mother's warning in the journal echoed in her thoughts: "Beware, my dear Elara, for the allure of darkness is strong, and it preys on the weaknesses within us." Despite the ominous warnings, Elara couldn't help but wonder if there was a way to use the darkness against itself. She was convinced that her mother's love for her, even buried beneath the corrupted loyalty to the dark crystal, could be the key to redemption. As she pressed onward, Elara resolved to find the dragon's lair and confront the malevolent force that held her mother captive. The pendant around her neck pulsed with a faint, reassuring light, a beacon of hope amid the encroaching darkness. Though the fear of losing herself to the same fate as her mother lingered, Elara had something her mother hadn't: a legacy of love, determination, and the unwavering belief that, in the end, light could triumph over darkness. With every step she took, she carried her mother's memory and the hope that she could break the cycle of darkness that had plagued their family for so long. As Elara ventured deeper into their dark forest, a growing sense of unease gnawed at her mother, Lila, who remained bound to the will of the dark crystal. Though her memories were clouded by darkness, a flicker of maternal instinct persisted within her. She sensed a disturbance in the very fabric of her existence, as if a thread that had been severed had suddenly reconnected. Lila's loyalty to the dark crystal had been unwavering, for years. She had watched countless heroes fall under its corrupting influence, their light snuffed out by the overwhelming power of darkness. But the connection she shared with her daughter, Elara, was different. It was a tether to her own past, to the love and hope she had once held dear. One fateful night, as Elara drew closer to the dragon's lair, she faced a formidable adversary, a shadowy guardian appointed by the dark crystal itself. The battle was fierce, and the forest echoed with the clash of magic and steel. As the confrontation reached its climax, Elara found herself in grave danger. In that moment, Lila felt an overwhelming surge of emotion, fear, anguish, and despair, as if a piece of her very soul was being torn asunder. She believed, with a profound and heart-wrenching certainty, that her daughter had met her end in the forest. The pain of that imagined loss was unlike anything she had ever experienced. But, paradoxically, it was this agonizing pain that broke through the dark crystal's control. In her despair over what she believed was Elara's death, Lila found a newfound strength, a spark of resistance against the malevolent force that had enslaved her. With a surge of willpower, she defied the dark crystal's commands and fought to regain control over her own actions. It was a struggle like no other, a battle between the love for her daughter and the darkness that had ensnared her for so long. Back in the forest, Elara, though battered and weary, had survived the encounter. She had faced the shadowy guardian and emerged victorious, her powers growing stronger with every battle. Unbeknownst to her, her mother's love had played a crucial role in that moment of salvation. As Lila continued to resist the dark crystal's influence, she clung to the belief that her daughter was still alive, her love serving as a beacon of hope. With each act of defiance, she weakened the crystal's hold over her, inching closer to the possibility of redemption and their chance to be reunited with Elara once more. In the depths of the dark forest, a relentless battle raged on, both within Lila's fractured mind and in the heart of the forest itself. Lila's unwavering love for her daughter, Elara, had kindled a dormant spark of resistance within her. With every moment of defiance, her connection to the dark crystal weakened, and the darkness that had consumed her began to recede. Lila fought against the overwhelming influence of the crystal, using the pain she had felt over her perceived loss of Elara as a source of strength. Slowly but surely, she clawed back control over her own actions and thoughts. Her eyes, once devoid of light, began to regain their clarity, and her skin, no longer ashen, started to take on a healthier hue. In the forest, Elara pressed on, fueled by her determination to confront the dragon and free her mother from the darkness. She had grown powerful, harnessing her elemental magic with a newfound skill that would make her mother proud. Unbeknownst to her, Lila's struggle and sacrifice had paved the way for this moment. But while Lila's redemption story unfolded, the dragon's nefarious plan continued to advance. Their creature had grown more formidable with each passing day, nourished by the corrupted energy of the dark crystal. Its ultimate goal, to destroy the sun and plunge the world into eternal night, loomed ominously on the horizon. As Elara finally reached the dragon's lair, she found her mother standing there, her eyes filled with tears, but no longer the vacant, malevolent gaze of the crystal's puppet. Lila was free. "Elara," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion, "I thought I had lost you." Tears welled up in Elara's eyes as she embraced her mother, their reunion a testament to the power of love and the resilience of the human spirit. With renewed determination, mother and daughter joined forces, combining their magic to confront the dragon. The battle that ensued was epic in scale, a clash of elemental forces that rocked the foundations of the dark forest. But despite their best efforts, the dragon's power proved insurmountable. It harnessed the might of the dark crystal in one final, devastating assault. With a cataclysmic surge of energy, the dragon achieved its malevolent goal. It struck a mighty blow against the sunday in the sky above, the radiant star that had been their source of light and hope for generations dimmed and flickered. The world trembled as darkness began to envelop it, and despair threatened to consume all. As the realization of their failure washed over them, Elara and Lila knew that they had one final chance to make things right. The fate of their world hung in the balance, and they were determined to find a way to restore the sun and banish their darkness that had been unleashed. With the strength of their bond, the love that had endured despite all odds, they embarked on a new quest, a quest to undo the dragon's terrible triumph and bring light back to a world cloaked in shadow. Elara and Lila's quest to restore the sun led them to ancient texts hidden deep within the dark forest. These texts spoke of a long-forgotten prophecy, one that foretold of a great darkness that would threaten to consume the world and the emergence of a hero who would rise to challenge it. As they deciphered the cryptic verses and riddles, a sense of urgency gripped them. The prophecy hinted that the power of the dark crystal was not just a malevolent artifact but the embodiment of a dark deity, an entity that sought to devour not only the sun but all that was good and light in the world. Their path led them to a hidden chamber, deep beneath the forest, where the true nature of the dark crystal was revealed. As they entered the chamber, they found themselves in a surreal, otherworldly realm. The air crackled with an eerie energy, and the walls of the chamber were adorned with grotesque carvings and eerie symbols. In the center of the chamber, they beheld a terrifying sight. The dragon, once a separate entity, had been absorbed into the very heart of the dark crystal. Its form twisted and merged with the crystal, becoming an extension of its dark will. The dragon's eyes, once filled with malevolence, were now blank and soulless. "The dark crystal is no mere object," a haunting voice echoed in their minds. "It is I, the dark god, who hungers for the extinction of all light and life." Elara and Lila realized that they were not merely confronting a powerful artifact, they were facing a malevolent deity that had manipulated events for centuries, luring heroes and mages into its grasp to further its dark ambitions. The dark god's revelation sent shivers down their spines, but they could not falter. They had come too far to give in to despair. They knew that defeating a god would be a near impossible task, but they also understood that they were the only hope the world had left. With a newfound determination, Elara and Lila unleashed the full extent of their combined powers, channeling their elemental magic to wage a battle against the dark god. Their battle raged on, a cataclysmic clash of light and darkness that threatened to tear the very fabric of reality. As the struggle reached its zenith, the dark god's power waned. It fought desperately to maintain its grip on the dragon and the darkness it had unleashed, but the combined strength of mother and daughter proved to be an indomitable force. With a blinding burst of radiant energy, they shattered the dark crystal, releasing the dragon from its torment and banishing the dark god's malevolent presence from the world. The chamber crumbled around them, but Elara and Lila emerged victorious. The sun, which had been on the brink of extinction, now blazed brighter than ever before, banishing the eternal night that had threatened to consume the world. Hope and light were restored, and the prophecy was fulfilled as the hero and her mother had vanquished the ultimate evil. Their tale became legend, a story of love, sacrifice, and the indomitable spirit of humanity triumphing over the darkest of gods. Elara and Lila returned to their village, not as saviors of the world, but as a family reunited, forever bound by their shared journey and the unbreakable bond of love that had seen them through the darkest of times. As the dust settled and the world basked in the renewed radiance of the sun, Elara and Lila believed that their battle against the dark god and the shattered dark crystal had come to a triumphant end. They returned to their village, where they were hailed as heroes, and life began to flourish once more. Yet, in the deepest recesses of the dark forest, where the remnants of the malevolent crystal lay scattered, a tiny shard remained hidden. This shard, infused with the residual darkness of the fallen god, pulsed with a faint, ominous energy. Unbeknownst to all, it had survived the cataclysmic battle and the shattering of its kin. The shard held a promise of darkness yet to come, a seed of malevolence that, if left unchecked, could someday sprout into a new threat. It waited patiently, biding its time, and as the years passed, it slowly began to influence the creatures and forces of darkness that still lingered in the forest. The villagers, in their newfound peace and prosperity, had no inkling of the shard's existence or its whispered promises of revenge. Elara and Lila, too, enjoyed their tranquil life, grateful for their hard-won happiness. Little did they know that their battle against the dark god might not have truly ended, for the shard remained a hidden harbinger of future darkness, a reminder that the forces of light and shadow were forever locked in an eternal struggle, and that heroes would always be needed to safeguard the world from the encroaching night. And so, the story continued, with a hint of uncertainty in the air, a foreshadowing of challenges yet to come, and a reminder that the journey of heroes was never truly over. In a world where the legacy of Elara and her mother, Lila, has become the stuff of legend, a new chapter was about to unfold. A century had passed since the defeat of the dark god and the shattering of the dark crystal. The world had flourished under the radiant sun, and the stories of the heroic mage and her daughter had become tales told to children at bedtime. In this era, a descendant of Elara emerged, a young paladin named Seraphim. He was a gifted healer, known for his unwavering dedication to helping those in need. His abilities were unparalleled, and his heart was filled with the same compassion and determination that had defined his ancestors. But as the years went by, whispers of a growing darkness began to circulate. Mysterious afflictions and maladies afflicted the land, resisting all conventional treatments. It was as if a malevolent force had begun to seep back into the world, eroding the harmony and peace that had prevailed for so long. Seraphim, guided by a sense of duty and an unexplained connection to his legendary forebears, embarked on a quest to uncover the source of this resurgence of darkness. He delved into the ancient tomes and scrolls left behind by Elara and Lila, seeking clues that might shed light on the new threat. In his research, Seraphim stumbled upon fragments of the old prophecy, the same one that had foretold the rise of heroes in his family's lineage. Among the writings, he he found cryptic references to the shard of the dark crystal, a remnant of the fallen dark god. It was said that the shard, hidden away for a century, was quietly amassing power, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. With a determined heart and an unwavering sense of purpose, Seraphim set out to find the shard and prevent its malevolent influence from consuming the world once more. He journeyed into the heart of the dark forest, where his ancestors had faced their greatest trials. As he navigated the eerie woods and confronted the lingering shadows of the past, Seraphim's healing abilities proved invaluable. He mended wounded creatures, befriended spirits, and brought solace to the tormented souls that still dwelled in the forest. But as he drew closer to the shard's hiding place, the darkness grew more insidious, and the challenges he faced more perilous. The remnants of the dark god's influence were relentless, testing Seraphim's resolve and his faith in the legacy of his heroic ancestors. With each step, Seraphim uncovered more about the shard's sinister plans, the alliances it had forged, and the malevolent forces it had awoken. He realized that his journey was not only a quest to save the world but also a test of his ability to carry on the legacy of his forebears. As he ventured deeper into the darkness, Seraphim knew that he had inherited not only the healing powers of his family but also their courage and determination to stand against the encroaching night. He was determined to discover the shard's existence and put an end to its sinister machinations, just as his ancestors had done a century before. As Seraphim delved deeper into the heart of the dark forest, the malevolent forces of darkness grew increasingly relentless. The shadows seemed to come alive, and ominous whispers echoed through the ancient trees, attempting to wear down his resolve. His path led him to a treacherous part of the forest, where the very air was heavy with darkness. There, he faced an insurmountable challenge, an ancient guardian, a monstrous creature born of the remnants of the dark god's influence. The guardian was a nightmarish amalgamation of shadow and nightmare, a creature that could rend the very soul of those who dared to confront it. Seraphim fought valiantly, wielding his holy powers with unwavering determination. But the guardian's power was overwhelming, and the battle took a toll on him. In a moment of despair, when all seemed lost, a mysterious figure emerged from the shadows, a beautiful elf with flowing ebony hair, eyes that gleamed like stars, and a presence that radiated an otherworldly aura. With ethereal grace, the elf joined the battle, her own powers mirroring Seraphim's but carrying an ancient, arcane quality. Together, they fought as a formidable team, matching the Guardian's malevolence with their unwavering determination. But even with their combined might, the Guardian proved to be an almost unbeatable foe. It struck Seraphim with a devastating blow, wounding him grievously and draining his strength. As he lay on the forest floor, his vision blurred and his consciousness slipping away, the mysterious elf unleashed a burst of radiant energy. It enveloped the Guardian in a blinding light, weakening its grip on Seraphim. With the last of his strength, Seraphim summoned his healing abilities to mend his own wounds. The elf's intervention had saved him, but the battle had taken its toll. When Seraphim finally regained his senses, the Guardian lay defeated, its malevolence dissipated. The elf approached him, her eyes filled with a mix of compassion and curiosity. "You carry the legacy of heroes," she said, her voice like a gentle breeze through the trees. "But you face a darkness older and more cunning than you can imagine." Seraphim nodded, gratitude and determination in his eyes. "I must find the shard of the dark crystal. It threatens to bring back the darkness that our world has fought so hard to banish." The elf smiled softly. "Then you shall not face it alone. I, too, have a stake in this battle. I have been watching, waiting for the one destined to confront the shard and restore balance to our world." With a newfound elf ally at his side, Seraphim's resolve burned brighter than ever. He had survived an insurmountable challenge, and with the mysterious elf's guidance, he knew he was one step closer to uncovering the shard's existence and thwarting its sinister plans. Their journey continued, a testament to the enduring legacy of heroes in the face of darkness. After their grueling battle with the ancient Guardian, Seraphim and the elf found themselves in need of rest and recuperation. With the darkness momentarily held at bay, they decided to return to a nearby tavern that Seraphim had visited during his initial journey into the dark forest. As they emerged from the depths of the eerie woods, the inviting glow of the tavern's lanterns welcomed them back to civilization. The place was a haven for weary travelers and adventurers, and the warmth of its hearth promised respite from the nightmarish challenges they had faced. Entering the tavern, Seraphim and the elf were met with a chorus of curious stares from the patrons. They were an unusual pair, and their appearance told a story of a battle-hardened journey. Seraphim's armor was battered, and his wounds still throbbed, while the elf's ethereal beauty contrasted with the scars of their recent struggle. They took a seat at a corner table, away from the prying eyes of the tavern's other patrons, who soon returned to their own conversations and merriment. A serving wench approached, her apron filled with flagons of ale and plates of hearty food. Seraphim ordered a round of drinks and a simple meal, grateful for the chance to nourish his body and spirit. The elf, while less inclined toward earthly sustenance, gracefully accepted a glass of fine elven wine. As they sipped their drinks and savored their food, the pair exchanged few words but shared a silent understanding. Their journey was far from over, and the shard of the dark crystal remained a looming threat. But for this brief moment, they could find solace in the camaraderie of the tavern, the warmth of the fire, and the simple pleasures of good food and drink. The tavern's lively atmosphere, filled with laughter and music, seemed to wash away the darkness that clung to them. Seraphim's wounds slowly began to mend, and the elf's arcane energy renewed her strength. Their journey had brought them closer, not only as allies but as friends bound by a shared purpose. With each passing moment in the welcoming embrace of the tavern, they grew more determined to face the challenges ahead, fortified by the rest they so sorely needed and the unspoken promise of the adventures yet to come. As Seraphim and the elf savored their respite in the tavern, the door swung open with a deafening crash, drawing the attention of every patron. In stumbled a hulking figure, a mountain of muscle and fur, carrying a massive battle-axe that scraped the door frame as he entered. This boisterous newcomer was Calder, a drunken barbarian whose loud laughter and bellowing voice announced his arrival long before he had crossed the threshold. His unkempt beard and wild mane of hair seemed to blend with the fur-lined pelts draped over his massive frame. Beside him, equally disheveled but noticeably more composed, stood a half-elf fire mage named Lila. Her crimson hair seemed to shimmer like flames in the tavern's dim light, and her piercing emerald eyes bore a hint of mischief. Calder's laughter echoed through the tavern as he clapped Seraphim on the back with a force that could have toppled a lesser man. "Well, well, what have we here?" he roared, his breath heavy with the scent of ale. "A healer and an elf with a face like a starry night. Looks like the party's getting started." Lila rolled her eyes at Calder's exuberance but offered a wry smile as she joined the gathering at their table. "Ignore him," she said to Seraphim and the elf. "He's loud, obnoxious, and seemingly invincible, but he has a good heart." Calder, still chuckling to himself, plopped down in a chair and gestured to the serving wench for a round of drinks. He regaled the trio with tales of his past exploits, battles fought, monsters vanquished, and more than a few tavern brawls won. Seraphim and the elf exchanged bemused glances but couldn't help but be drawn to Calder's charisma and infectious spirit. He may have been a brute of a man, but there was a genuine warmth and camaraderie in his rough-and-tumble demeanor. Lila, on the other hand, leaned in closer to share a whispered secret. "He may be a handful, but he's surprisingly skilled in battle, and I can vouch for his loyalty." As the night wore on, Seraphim and the elf found themselves forging an unlikely alliance with Calder and Lila. It seemed fate had brought them together in the tavern's raucous embrace, binding them by the shared desire to confront the darkness that threatened their world. With their new companions at their side, Seraphim and the elf knew that their quest to uncover the shard of the dark crystal had just become a bit more colorful and chaotic. The tavern's revelry continued, filled with laughter, music, and the promise of adventures yet to come. With their newfound companions, Calder the boisterous barbarian and Lyria the half-elf fire mage, Seraphim and the elf decided it was time to venture back into the heart of the dark forest. They had rested and fortified their spirits in the tavern, but their shard of the dark crystal still awaited discovery. As they trekked deeper into the shadowy woods, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Rustling leaves and fleeting shadows in the underbrush hinted at an unseen presence following them. Calder, ever vigilant, drew his massive battle-axe with a practiced ease, while Lyria conjured a protective barrier of flames around their party. They moved cautiously, weapons at the ready, as they sought to identify their unseen pursuer. It wasn't long before the source of their intrigue revealed itself. Emerging from behind a gnarled tree, a goblin, unlike any they had ever encountered, stepped into their path. But instead of menacing intentions, this goblin wore an outfit adorned with colorful patches, a jester's hat with bells, and carried a lute slung over his shoulder. The goblin was Grob, a bard with dreams and aspirations beyond the confines of his goblin tribe's cave. He had heard tales of the adventurer's quest to uncover the shard of the dark crystal and had followed them, hoping to convince them to grant him the opportunity of a lifetime, an adventure of his own. His eyes shone with a childlike wonder as he pleaded, "Please, kind heroes, take me with you on your quest. I've always dreamed of singing epic songs and witnessing legendary deeds firsthand. I wish to leave behind the dreary life of a goblin and make my mark in the world." Seraphim, the elf, Calder, and Lyria exchanged bemused glances, unsure of what to make of this unexpected addition to their party. Grob seemed harmless, even endearing, with his earnest enthusiasm and jester's charm. Calder let out a hearty laugh, sheathing his battle-axe. "Well, what do you say, folks? We could use a bit of entertainment on this journey, and who knows? Grob here might prove to be quite useful in his own way." Lyria nodded in agreement, and Seraphim, with a warm smile, extended a hand to Grob. "Welcome to our party, Grob. It seems our adventure just got a lot more interesting." With Grob now a part of their unlikely band of heroes, they continued their quest deeper into the dark forest, united by a shared purpose and a newfound sense of camaraderie. The shadows of the forest seemed a little less foreboding with the goblin bard's infectious optimism, and the party set forth with renewed determination to uncover the shard of the dark crystal and face whatever challenges lay ahead. As Seraphim, the elf, Calder, Lyria, and their unexpected companion Grob ventured deeper into the heart of the dark forest, the sense of darkness and foreboding intensified. The air grew heavy with malevolence, and the very trees seemed to twist and contort with an unnatural presence. Their quest had led them to the rumored lair of the shard of their dark crystal, but what they found was beyond anything they could have imagined. The forest itself had become a nightmarish, mind-bending labyrinth, a living, breathing dungeon that defied the laws of nature. Trees with eyes for leaves watched their every move, their branches reaching out like skeletal hands. The ground beneath their feet shifted and writhed, creating an ever-changing maze of roots and thorns. Eerie whispers echoed through the air, taunting and tempting them with twisted promises. Lyria, with her mastery of fire magic, attempted to burn a path through the darkened woods, but the flames only danced briefly before extinguishing themselves, leaving no trace of their passage. It was as if the forest itself resisted their intrusion, reshaping itself to thwart their progress. Calder's brute strength proved equally futile as he hacked away at the sinister vegetation, only to see it regenerate with a vengeful vigor. Grob, despite his best efforts to inspire the party with jovial songs and stories, found his tunes twisted into eerie lullabies that threatened to lull them into a trance. Seraphim, the group's healer and anchor, struggled to maintain their mental and physical well-being as the oppressive atmosphere took its toll. The forest played tricks on their senses, distorting their perception of time and direction, leaving them disoriented and on edge. Amidst the chaos, they came across a fork in the ever-shifting path. Each route appeared equally treacherous, and a palpable sense of dread hung in the air. They had to make a choice, knowing that the shard of the dark crystal lay somewhere within the depths of this eldritch maze. Lyra turned to the group with determination in her eyes. We must press on, no matter the cost. This forest is a manifestation of the shard's malevolence, and we cannot allow it to deter us from our mission. Calder, his warrior spirit undiminished, nodded in agreement. Let's show this forest we're not ones to be toyed with. Onward. With renewed resolve, they selected one of the twisting paths and forged ahead, knowing that the shard of the dark crystal awaited them somewhere within this nightmarish labyrinth. Their journey through the forest-turned-dungeon was far from over, and the challenges that lay ahead would test not only their strength and skills but their wits and resilience as well. As Seraphim, the elf, Calder, Lyra, and Grob ventured deeper into the nightmarish labyrinth of the dark forest, the oppressive atmosphere only grew more menacing. They pushed forward, determined to confront the shard of the dark crystal, but the forest itself seemed to conspire against them. Their footsteps echoed through the twisted woods as they followed a path that appeared more promising than the others. The air grew colder, and eerie whispers became frenzied murmurs that taunted their very sanity. It was then that they heard a distant, bone-chilling sound, a guttural roar that reverberated through the trees. Turning a corner, they came upon a clearing, bathed in an ominous red glow. At its center loomed a relic of the past, an enormous, skeletal dragon, its bones twisted and charred as if it had been forged in the fires of an ancient apocalypse. Its empty eye sockets blazed with burning red flames, casting an eerie, crimson light upon the desolation surrounding it. This abomination was no ordinary creature, it was a spectral guardian, a sentinel of a bygone era that had been twisted and corrupted by the malevolent presence of the shard of the dark crystal. It regarded the intruders with malevolent intelligence, its skeletal form seeming to ripple with an unnatural vitality. Calder, the boisterous barbarian, stepped forward with determination, his battle-axe at the ready. We've faced many challenges on this journey, but none like this. Prepare yourselves, my friends, for this is a foe unlike any other. Lyra, the fire mage, summoned her arcane power, encasing herself and her companions in a protective barrier of flame, vitality. Calder, the boisterous barbarian, stepped forward with determination, his battle-axe at the ready. We've faced many challenges on this journey, but none like this. Prepare yourselves, my friends, for this is a foe unlike any other. Lyra, the fire mage, summoned her arcane power, encasing herself and her companions in a protective barrier of flames. Grob, the goblin bard, played a haunting melody on his lute, the eerie notes weaving a protective enchantment around the group. Seraphim, the healer, felt a surge of divine energy welling up within him. He knew that this skeletal dragon was an embodiment of the shard's malevolence, and it had to be vanquished to reach their ultimate goal. With a battle cry, Calder charged toward the spectral dragon, swinging his battle-axe with all his might. The dragon responded with a deafening roar, sending a wave of spectral flames toward the party. Lyra's barrier absorbed the brunt of the attack, protecting them from the worst of the inferno. The battle raged on, the party's determination and teamwork pitted against the spectral guardian's relentless power. Grob's music, infused with magic, countered the dragon's haunting cries, disrupting its spectral energy. Seraphim, the healer, called upon his divine abilities to mend his companions' wounds and bolster their resolve. The skeletal dragon, with its burning red eyes, fought fiercely, but it could not withstand the combined might of this determined group. With a final, powerful strike from Calder's battle-axe and a burst of magical flames from Lyra, the spectral guardian let out a bone-chilling shriek. Its bones crumbled into ashes, and the eerie red light in its eye sockets faded into nothingness. The party stood victorious, but their victory came at a cost. They were battered and exhausted, and the eldritch labyrinth of the dark forest still lay ahead, holding the shard of the dark crystal. With grim determination, they pressed on, knowing that their ultimate confrontation with the malevolent relic of the past drew closer. As Seraphim, the elf, Calder, Lyria, and Grob continued their journey through the twisted and eerie labyrinth of the dark forest, they had little time to rest after their battle with the skeletal guardian. The malevolent presence of the shard of the dark crystal continued to warp the forest into a nightmarish realm of torment and despair. Their path led them deeper into the forest's heart, where the shadows grew thicker and the whispers more insidious. It was there, amidst the gnarled trees and twisted vines, that they stumbled upon a sight that sent shivers down their spines, a vast, sprawling army of darkness. The army was a horde of nightmarish creatures, a motley assortment of twisted beings that seemed plucked from the darkest recesses of their fears. There were goblins with malevolent grins, clad in crude armor, and grotesque trolls with gnarled limbs and eyes gleaming with malice. Shadowy wraiths flitted among them, their forms shifting and ethereal. At the heart of the horde stood a figure clad in shadowy robes, a dark sorcerer, a puppeteer of the malevolent forces that had gathered here. His eyes glowed with a malevolent intelligence, and he raised a gnarled staff that crackled with dark energy. The party concealed themselves behind a thicket, watching in stunned silence as the army of darkness assembled. It was clear that they were gathering for a purpose, and it could only be linked to the shard of the dark crystal. Lyria whispered, "We cannot let them reach the shard before us. It's our duty to stop whatever dark ritual they're planning." Calder's eyes blazed with warrior's resolve. "I've faced many battles, but this one might be the most dire. I'll stand with you." Grob, though trembling, plucked a haunting tune on his lute, infusing the party with courage and determination. Seraphim, the healer, nodded. "We go in together, for the sake of our world and all who dwell within it." The party readied themselves, preparing for a desperate confrontation with the army of darkness. With their combined strength and determination, they advanced stealthily, determined to disrupt whatever sinister plan the dark sorcerer and his horde had in store. As they drew closer to the malevolent army, they couldn't help but wonder how the shard of the dark crystal played into this dire situation. The answers they sought lay ahead, shrouded in darkness and peril, as they prepared to face an enemy that embodied the very essence of the forest's nightmarish transformation. As the party of Seraphim, the elf, Calder, Lyria, and Grob cautiously approached the army of darkness, they noticed that the malevolent horde was gathered around a colossal, ancient tree. Its gnarled roots seemed to merge with the very heart of the forest, and its branches stretched toward the darkening sky like skeletal fingers. It was at the base of this colossal tree that they stumbled upon a series of ancient, moss-covered stone tablets, half buried in the earth. Grob's curious nature led him to investigate, and with a gentle brush of his hand, he uncovered the faded inscriptions etched onto the tablets. These inscriptions told the secrets of the dark crystal, of the ancient prophecy that had foretold its creation, and of the heroes who had battled to shatter it. The tablets spoke of the shard's malevolence and its power to twist not only the forest but the hearts and minds of those who dared to seek it. Lyria's eyes widened as she read aloud from the tablets. "The shard of the dark crystal is a fragment of pure malevolence, a reflection of the darkness within the hearts of all who dwell in this world. It seeks to corrupt and consume, to bring about an age of shadows and despair." Calder clenched his fists as he listened, realizing the gravity of their mission. "So, this shard is not just a relic, it's a manifestation of darkness itself." Seraphim nodded, his heart heavy with the revelation. "It is our duty to ensure that it never falls into the hands of those who would use it to unleash such malevolence upon our world." As the party absorbed the secrets revealed by the ancient tablets, they understood that their quest was not merely about destroying the shard but about confronting the darkness within themselves and their world. But their contemplation was cut short when the dark sorcerer leading the army of darkness raised his staff, and an eerie, otherworldly chant filled the air. The malevolent horde began to advance toward the colossal tree, and a feeling of dread settled over the party. With newfound determination and the weight of their world's fate upon their shoulders, Seraphim, the elf, Calder, Lyria, and Grob prepared to face the army of darkness, knowing that the secrets of the dark crystal were just the beginning of the revelations they would uncover on their perilous journey. As the party prepared to confront the army of darkness and protect the secrets of the dark crystal, they found themselves grappling with the darkness within themselves. The ancient tablets they had uncovered had revealed that the shard was a reflection of the darkness within the hearts of all who dwelled in their world. This revelation weighed heavily on their minds as they advanced toward the malevolent horde. Seraphim, the healer, couldn't help but question his own motives. He had always believed in the power of light and healing, but now he wondered if he was truly pure of heart. He feared that the malevolence of the shard might find a crack in his soul and exploit it. The elf, known for her compassion and grace, confronted her own doubts. She wondered if her desire for vengeance against the shard, for all the evil it had caused, was a form of darkness in itself. She realized that the path to defeating the shard might test her own capacity for mercy. Calder, the boisterous barbarian, who had always reveled in the thrill of battle, questioned whether his love for combat and conquest was a manifestation of the very darkness they sought to defeat. He grappled with the idea that his strength, which had been a source of pride, could also be a source of darkness. Lyria, the fire mage, who had harnessed the power of flames for protection and justice, feared that her connection to the elemental fire could lead her down a path of destructive rage. She knew that controlling her own inner fire was essential to overcoming the shard's malevolence. Grob, the goblin bard, who had joined their quest with dreams of adventure and fame, struggled with his own insecurities. He questioned whether he had the courage and worthiness to be counted among true heroes. As they confronted these doubts and insecurities, the party realized that facing the darkness within themselves was just as crucial as confronting the malevolent horde. They found solace in their camaraderie and their shared commitment to protecting their world from the shard's malevolence. With newfound clarity and a deeper understanding of their own inner struggles, they faced the army of darkness not only as a united force but as individuals who had embraced their own capacity for both light and darkness. The battle that ensued would test their resolve and the strength of their character, as they fought not only to protect their world but to overcome the darkness within their own hearts. The battle against the army of darkness raged with a ferocity that echoed through the haunted woods of the dark forest. Seraphim, the elf, Calder, Lyria, and Grob fought valiantly, their every strike and spell an embodiment of their resolve to protect their world from the shard's malevolence. Calder's battle-axe cleaved through the twisted ranks of goblins and trolls, and Lyria's flames danced in a deadly ballet of destruction, incinerating shadowy wraiths. Grob's haunting melodies wove protective enchantments around the party, while Seraphim's healing magic mended their wounds, keeping them standing against the malevolent horde. But the army of darkness was relentless. For every foe they felled, two more seemed to take its place. The dark sorcerer leading the horde, his staff crackling with malevolent energy, summoned dark shadows that clawed at their defenses, threatening to unravel their resolve. As the battle wore on, exhaustion and despair began to seep into the party's hearts. The darkness within themselves, which they had confronted earlier, seemed to grow stronger, and doubt crept into their minds. Calder, his once boisterous laughter replaced by grim determination, shouted, "We can't hold them back forever. We need a plan." Lyria nodded, her fiery magic still blazing. "Agreed. We must disrupt the dark sorcerer's control over this horde. If we take him down, the others may falter." But just as they made their decision to target the dark sorcerer, the malevolent horde closed in, overwhelming them with sheer numbers. Seraphim, despite his healing efforts, was struck down by a flurry of dark magic, and Grob found himself cornered by shadowy wraiths. Calder and Lyria fought valiantly, their strength undiminished, but the odds were stacked against them. The dark sorcerer's sinister laughter filled the air as he observed the party's struggle. In a final, desperate push, they lunged toward the dark sorcerer, their weapons and magic aimed at ending his malevolent train. But before they could reach him, a blinding flash of dark energy enveloped them, and the world around them twisted and warped. When the darkness lifted, they found themselves bound and imprisoned within a nightmarish realm, a twisted reflection of the dark forest, a mind-bending dungeon that defied their every attempt to escape. The malevolent horde had achieved victory, and the secrets of the dark crystal remained perilously out of reach. The party's valiant battle had come at a great cost, leaving them trapped within a nightmarish labyrinth, their fate uncertain in the clutches of the very darkness they had sought to vanquish. Trapped within the nightmarish labyrinth of the Shadow Realm, the party of Seraphim, the elf, Calder, Lyria, and Grob faced a harrowing journey that tested not only their physical strength but also the very darkness within themselves. As they navigated their twisting, surreal landscapes of the Shadow Realm, they encountered eerie reflections of their own flaws and insecurities. Phantasmal apparitions whispered doubts into their ears, conjuring vivid illusions that replayed their past mistakes and failures. It was as if the Shadow Realm sought to expose their deepest vulnerabilities and fears. Seraphim, the healer, was haunted by the faces of those he had failed to save in the past. He saw himself as a young acolyte, powerless to prevent a tragedy. The apparitions urged him to confront his guilt and find forgiveness within himself. The elf, known for her compassion, saw herself in a mirror, her reflection warped into a figure of vengeance and cruelty. It was a stark reminder that her desire to vanquish the shard of the dark crystal had its roots in anger and hatred. She struggled to find a balance between her desire for justice and her capacity for mercy. Calder, the boisterous warrior, confronted spectral versions of enemies he had slain in battle. They taunted him with accusations of brutality and mindless violence. He realized that his strength, once a source of pride, could be a double-edged sword, and he needed to find a more honorable path. Lyria, the fire mage, saw herself consumed by flames, a symbol of her fear of losing control over her own destructive powers. She had to confront her inner fire and find a way to harness it for good rather than letting it consume her. Grob, the goblin bard, faced apparitions of his own insecurities and doubts, replaying moments of self-doubt and inadequacy. He realized that his journey with the party had given him the chance to prove his worth, not only to others but to himself. As they journeyed through the Shadow Realm, the party had to confront these illusions and their own inner darkness. They struggled, stumbled, and faltered, but they also found strength in one another. They offered support, encouragement, and understanding, helping each other face their flaws and find the will to live, not just to survive the Shadow Realm but to emerge from it as better individuals. The journey through the Shadow Realm was a grueling trial, a reflection of their inner struggles made manifest. But it also became a testament to their resilience, their determination to overcome their flaws, and their unwavering commitment to protecting their world from the malevolence of their shard of the dark crystal. As the party continued their arduous journey through the nightmarish labyrinth of the Shadow Realm, they encountered an unsettling presence, a distorted reflection of the dark sorcerer who had led the malevolent horde in the dark forest. This shadowy apparition of the sorcerer was even more malevolent and twisted, wielding powers that defied the laws of reality. He stood as a final obstacle, guarding the way out of the Shadow Realm and back into their own world. With determination born from their journey through the darkness within themselves, Seraphim, the elf, Calder, Lyria, and Grob readied themselves for one last battle. They understood that defeating this malevolent shadow of the sorcerer was the key to escaping the Shadow Realm and continuing their quest to protect their world from the shard of the dark crystal. The battle that followed was fierce and surreal. The shadow sorcerer twisted the very fabric of the realm, summoning nightmarish creatures and conjuring illusions to torment the party. But the party had learned to harness their inner strengths, to confront their flaws, and to rely on each other as a cohesive unit. Lyria's flames blazed with newfound control, searing through the sorcerer's illusions. Calder's battle axe struck with precision, cutting through the shadows with unwavering determination. Grob's music, filled with the echoes of their shared trials, bolstered their spirits, dispelling the darkness that sought to engulf them. Seraphim, the healer, summoned the divine energy within himself, dispelling the malevolent forces that the shadow sorcerer had commanded. With each strike and spell, they chipped away at the sorcerer's power, unraveling the illusion that had ensnared them. In a final, resounding clash of magic and steel, the shadow sorcerer let out a wail of defeat. His form dissipated into shadows, and the twisted landscape of the shadow realm began to unravel. With the defeat of the shadow sorcerer, their party felt a profound sense of liberation. The surreal landscape around them shattered like glass, revealing the familiar surroundings of the dark forest. They had broken free from the clutches of the shadow realm and returned to their own reality. But their journey was far from over. They had faced the darkness within themselves and emerged stronger for it. They had conquered the malevolent reflections of their flaws and insecurities. Now, with renewed determination, they pressed on to confront the shard of the dark crystal, knowing that the ultimate battle lay ahead. As the shadow sorcerer's defeat reverberated through the shadow realm, a torrent of dark magic surged through the malevolent horde, swirling and coalescing into a nightmarish manifestation. It was as if the very essence of the army of darkness sought to avenge its fallen leader, merging their twisted forms into colossal monstrosities. From the churning abyss of dark magic emerged four towering colossuses, each one a grotesque amalgamation of the creatures that had comprised the army of darkness. Their forms were twisted and nightmarish, their eyes burning with an eerie malevolence. These colossal abominations, the dark sorcerer's final defiance, loomed over the party of Seraphim, the elf, Calder, Lyria, and Grob. The ground shook beneath their immense weight as they advanced with thunderous footsteps, their collective roar echoing through the surreal landscape of the shadow realm. Seraphim, his heart filled with determination, called upon the divine power within him, while Lyria's flames blazed with an intensity matched only by her will to protect her companions. Calder, his warrior spirit undaunted, charged forward with unwavering resolve, and Grob, the goblin bard, infused his melodies with magic to bolster their spirits. The battle that followed was nothing short of epic. The party fought with every ounce of their strength and courage. Their strikes and spells focused on dismantling their colossal abominations. But the abominations were relentless, their dark magic reinforcing their formidable forms. The sky above the shadow realm churned with swirling shadows, and the very fabric of reality seemed to tear and fray. The dark sorcerer's final act of defiance, born from his own shattered existence in the shadow realm, was a force to be reckoned with. As the battle reached its climax, Seraphim, Lyria, Calder, and Grob unleashed their most powerful attacks, striking the colossal abominations with all their might. The dark magic binding them began to unravel, and the abominations let out bone-chilling screams of agony. With a thunderous explosion of dark energy, the colossal abominations shattered into countless shards of malevolence. The nightmarish manifestation that had sought to avenge the shadow sorcerer's defeat was no more. The shadow realm trembled as the malevolent energy dispersed, leaving only echoes of its presence. The dark sorcerer's defiance had been quelled, and the party had emerged victorious, albeit scarred by the battle. As the surreal landscape around them began to stabilize, the party knew that they had overcome not only the sorcerer's malevolence but also the nightmarish manifestations of their own inner darkness. Their journey was far from over, but they had proven their strength and resilience, and they were one step closer to confronting the shard of the dark crystal and protecting their world from its malevolent influence. As the colossal abominations shattered into shards of malevolence in the aftermath of the battle, an unexpected and miraculous event unfolded. From the remnants of the dark magic that had bound the abominations, 4 shards of Lila's pendant began to rise, floating in the air like ethereal fragments. These shards glimmered with a pure, radiant light that contrasted starkly with the malevolence that had consumed the shadow realm. They drifted closer to Seraphim, the elf, Calder, Lyria, and Grob, forming a pristine, shining image of their pendant in front of them. The party watched in awe as the shards circled one another, their radiance growing with each passing moment. It was as if the pendant itself had undergone a profound transformation, purifying itself from the darkness it had absorbed during Lila's ordeal. Seraphim, the healer, extended a hand toward the newly formed pendant, his heart filled with a mixture of hope and wonder. Could this be a sign? A symbol of redemption? The elf, Lyria, nodded, her eyes filled with a sense of reverence. Perhaps Lila's sacrifice and the darkness she endured have been purified, and her pendant now holds the key to our success. Calder, the warrior, watched the radiant pendant with a sense of newfound purpose. We've come this far, and we've faced the darkest aspects of ourselves. With this pendant, we may have the power to confront the shard of the dark crystal. Grob, the goblin bard, plucked a soft, hopeful tune on his lute, the music echoing the purity of the pendant's light. A symbol of redemption indeed. Let's carry it with us, for it may be our greatest ally. With the radiant pendant now in their possession, the party felt a renewed sense of determination and hope. They knew that they were one step closer to confronting the shard of the dark crystal, and that Lila's sacrifice had not been in vain. Their journey continued, guided by the shimmering light of the pendant, as they pressed on to protect their world from the malevolence that threatened it. As the party of Seraphim, the elf, Calder, Lyria, and Grob finally approached the shard of the dark crystal, their anticipation mixed with trepidation. The radiant pendant, born from Lila's sacrifice and purified in the shadow realm, led them to the very heart of their quest. Before them, the shard of the dark crystal hovered, suspended in an eerie, otherworldly aura. It emanated an unsettling energy, a malevolence that seemed to pulse with life. With a condescending air of self-absorption, the shard began to take on a dark, humanoid form. The dark figure formed from the shard regarded the party with an arrogant smirk, his voice dripping with malice. "Ah, pitiful mortals, you have come to face me, the embodiment of darkness and power. I am a god, a force beyond your feeble comprehension, and you are insignificant insects." The party stood resolute, their newfound unity and the radiant pendant filling them with courage. Calder, his eyes ablaze with defiance, stepped forward. "You may revel in your arrogance, but we've faced the depths of our own darkness and emerged unbroken. You won't intimidate us, false god." With a chilling laugh, the dark humanoid continued his self-absorbed speech, his words like venomous daggers. "Your defiance is amusing, for you are about to witness the futility of your struggle. I am the embodiment of malevolence, the true nature of your world, and I cannot be defeated. Your hope is a mere flicker in the abyss of despair, and your world will crumble under my might." As the dark figure boasted, a profound transformation overcame him. His body twisted and contorted, his dark form melting and merging with the shard itself. The ground trembled beneath the party's feet as the shard expanded, growing into a colossal sludge monster. The monster, now the size of a mountain, oozed with dark energy, its form a grotesque amalgamation of shadows and malevolence. It regarded the party with a twisted, mocking grin. Lyria, her flames burning brighter than ever, raised her staff with determination. "We've come this far, and we'll face this monstrosity together. With the pendant's light and our unity, we can overcome even the darkest of horrors." Seraphim, the healer, channeled his divine energy, infusing his companions with strength. "We fight not just for ourselves but for our world, for Lila, and for all those who have suffered at the hands of this darkness." Calder, the warrior, hefted his battle axe, ready for their battle ahead. "It may call itself a god, but we'll show this abomination the true power of unwavering resolve and unyielding defiance." Grob, the goblin bard, played a haunting dirge on his lute, filling the party with grim determination. "Let the darkest depths of our souls be the crucible from which we forge our victory." With their hearts filled with a darker and grittier determination, their party prepared to face the colossal sludge monster, knowing that the ultimate battle for their world's survival had begun. The battle against the colossal sludge monster raged on, an epic clash between the forces of light and the embodiment of darkness itself. The very ground trembled beneath the immense weight of the monstrosity, and the air was thick with the suffocating presence of malevolence. The party of Seraphim, the elf, Calder, Lyria, and Grob fought with every ounce of their strength and determination. Their weapons and spells struck the monstrous form, causing it to quiver and churn with dark energy. Each blow was met with a grotesque retaliation as tendrils of shadow lashed out at them. Lyria summoned torrents of searing flames that danced and roared, attempting to consume their malevolent sludge. Calder's battle-axe cleaved through the shadowy appendages, his muscles straining with the effort. Grob's haunting melodies echoed through the battlefield, shielding his companions with magical barriers. Seraphim, the healer, channeled the radiant power of the pendant, his every step infused with divine energy. His heart was a beacon of hope amid the darkness, and he bore their burden of delivering the final blow to the sludge monster. The battle was grueling, with the party's members being battered and drained of their strength. Shadows clung to them like leeches, attempting to extinguish their resolve. Yet, they pressed on, each blow and spell inching them closer to victory. As the sludge monster reeled from their relentless assault, Seraphim raised the radiant pendant high. It blazed with an intensity that seemed to defy the very essence of darkness. He called upon the pure light contained within the pendant, and with a cry that resonated through the battlefield, he struck a final, devastating blow. A brilliant burst of light erupted from the pendant, piercing through the heart of the colossal sludge monster. The malevolence within it howled and writhed, its form unraveling as if torn apart by the forces of creation and destruction. The battlefield was bathed in blinding radiance as the sludge monster disintegrated, its monstrous roars silenced forever. Shadows scattered like ashes in the wind, dissipating into the ether. The party stood, triumphant but battered, in the wake of their victory. The radiant pendant still blazed with an intense light, its purpose fulfilled. They had vanquished the embodiment of darkness, proving that even the most malevolent of gods could be defeated by the power of unity, hope, and unwavering resolve. As they caught their breath and regrouped, they knew that their journey was far from over. The shard of the dark crystal awaited, and the fate of their world hung in the balance. But they had faced the ultimate test, and emerged victorious, stronger and the more resolute than ever before. With the colossal sludge monster defeated and the malevolence dispersed, the party approached the remains of the shard of the dark crystal. It lay shattered on the ground, its once menacing aura reduced to mere fragments. Seraphim, the elf, carefully gathered the pieces into his hands. As he held the shattered remnants of their dark crystal, the radiant pendant he wore gleamed with an even greater intensity. The pure light it contained seemed to react to the malevolence within the crystal, pulsating with a cleansing power. With a determined expression, Seraphim raised the radiant pendant high, and its radiant light enveloped the shattered pieces of the dark crystal. A brilliant purification process unfolded, causing their malevolent fragments to disintegrate into sparkling motes of light. The party watched in awe as the once corrupted crystal transformed into a pristine, radiant gem that seemed to resonate with the very essence of purity and hope. It was a symbol of their triumph over darkness, a testament to their unwavering resolve. But as they marveled at the purified dark crystal, a deafening roar echoed through the mountains, reverberating for hundreds of miles in every direction. The ground shook beneath them, and the sky above darkened as if heralding an approaching storm. Atop a distant mountain peak, a colossal dragon, its scales a fiery red with molten magma-like qualities, raised its head to the sky. Its roar filled the air with a primal, thunderous sound that sent shivers down the party's spines. It was a dragon of immense power and presence, a creature forged from the very depths of the earth's fiery heart. Its eyes blazed with an ominous red glow, and its very presence radiated an aura of unbridled heat and power. The party knew that their journey was far from over, and that this red magma dragon symbolized new adventures and challenges yet to come. With the purified dark crystal in their possession and the colossal dragon as a foreboding omen, they readied themselves for the next chapter of their epic quest. The future was uncertain, but their bond and their unwavering determination would guide them through whatever trials lay ahead, for they were the champions of light in a world threatened by darkness, and the fiery presence of the magma dragon was a testament to the trials that awaited them.